Happy Saturday. Today is Saturday. It was actually quite good. The weather was quite good today, so we decided we were going to go on the train from here to Leeds on the train. So I was looking at the train tickets, and it was like so expensive to get down on the train, but it wasn't a problem. So we just thought we'll just go on the train and then look around, walk around Leeds Center, town center, and then get back on the train. So about 12, 11, about 11, 12, got ready and everything, and then it just started chucking it down. But we just thought, you're gonna go on the train, and the weather, it always rains, right? It always rains. So decided to then get down to the train station to go onto the train, and then realized that the trains, they were like, I think there was gonna be a train at about 12:30 or 12 something that we were gonna catch, and it was just raining nonstop. We get down to the train station, and I thought, there's no way I want to get out of this car, because you park your car somewhere and then you have to walk to the entrance of the train station. I was like, there is no chance of this happening, because you get, by the time you get inside the actual train, you are drenched, and people will be like, oh my god, why, what are you rushing? We weren't even going to go to Leeds for any specific reason. It was only just so we could get out of the house. It's a Saturday, do something, just to do something. It wasn't like something specific that was needed to be done. And so go back in the car, got to the parking lot, just decided, no, it's not worth being drenched, even if it was like a 3 minute or 4 minute walk to the train station, but it was chucking it down. So decided not to go. There's always gonna be. I'm in the train like literally almost, I think, every month. I'm in the train going to London or going somewhere, but mostly going to London because it's so much easier to get in the train. Park your car close to the train station. Get in the train. Get to London. Do what you need to do, and then just come back and get in the train. I remember about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I got my train. I usually buy my ticket online, but for some reason, because I was really running late and I didn't want to buy a specific time ticket, because obviously if you buy a specific time ticket, it means you have to be at the train station at that particular time. So I got to the train station, and then I went to the booth. I think the booth is no longer there now, but they had, yeah, was it there? Yeah, there was a booth. There was a booth. So I went and bought a ticket, and the person even asked me to say, do I want a specific seat? Because it was a Saturday, and usually Saturdays, like mid-morning, the trains are full. So I said, yeah, sure, let's go. And then I got a seat. So I get to my seat, I get to this train, and then I get to my seat, and somebody was sitting on it. It was a young man, maybe 17, 18, maybe. I would say 17, 18. He wasn't any younger. He wasn't younger than 17. He wasn't older than 18 or 19. So I asked him nicely to say, this is my seat, this is my ticket. Do you mind just moving to another seat that's not assigned or designated to somebody? And the young man just got up from his seat and he went to the seat behind. He was sitting on his own with his feet up, because usually, the train seats, there's two seats. And so he was with his back on the window, with his feet on the next chair. So he just moved. He didn't say a word. He went and sat, and I said thank you, and that was the end of it. And then I sit down, and then literally not even I sit down, I get myself sorted. And then 2-3 minutes later, this man who was literally sitting across the aisle, 2 seats down across the aisle, says to me, Why did you ask him to move away from his seat? So I said, because it's my allocated seat. And at that time when he said that, because he came at me like he just got up. I didn't even know where he came from. This was just like a person who was sitting somewhere else. He wasn't even there. He came at me. So there was this lady who sells, the ladies who walk around with the trolleys, and they're selling crisps, chocolates, and drinks and whatnot. So she was just passing, and she saw how aggressive this man came at me. And then she says, "Oh, yeah, if a person's got a designated seat, they they go and sit on their seat." So the lady just said that to me, to the man, so that because she kind of like just had him from behind me, and she could see how much he was coming at me. And because I was sitting down, it felt more aggressive, because he was standing up. He was a big, tall man. And then he then says, "Well, you should never have spoken to my son. He's a minor. He's a minor. You should never speak to minors when their parents are there." So I'm like, where was the parent when I came? There was nobody there. He was sitting on his own. And the thing is, I asked him about his seat. He moved away and he went and sat somewhere. I was like, "Oh, well, you should never speak to him. You should have asked me for permission." And I'm like, where were you? How am I supposed to know that of any of these 300 people in the train, one of these people is his parents? Like, how was I going to guess that in the first place? I didn't say that to him. But it was very weird that he just decided to say, first he says, "Why did you ask him to sit on his train, on the thing?" Anyway, we finished doing that. I just put my headphones on and I carried on. And then he then called. So he got really annoyed because it was a lady who was trying to like say, "Do you know what? If the seat is designated to somebody, it's the person should, if you're sitting on a seat and your ticket doesn't say that's your seat, then when the person comes, you just move on to the next seat that's available, because it clearly tells you the seats that are available." So anyway, he didn't get his way with this lady. A gentleman who was coming around with asking for the tickets, the one who checks the tickets, he then says, "Well, excuse me, I would like to make a complaint against this lady. She spoke to my child without my permission." So, and now this boy is getting so embarrassed by this, because the boy had just moved, put his headphones on, and was minding his own business. And the father wanted to make a whole big thing. And I'm like, I did not touch your son. I did not touch him. I only spoke to him. So what would that make, like, you, even if you want to make a complaint, what are you going to say? That I spoke to a person and asked them to move from my seat? Like, which judge is going to like grant you some sort of, "Oh, she can go to prison because she spoke to my child, my 17-year-old." This was a big, tall guy, mind you. He was wearing like sports. He was coming from like either going to a sport, I think it was football. He was wearing like a sports kit. So he was reasonably tall. And to me, if the only thing you could tell that is a child is his facial features, but otherwise he wasn't a child. He was, I would say, 17 to 18, no younger than that and no older than that, which is fine. He was a minor and his father was going with him to whatever event that they were going. So I can appreciate that. But if you felt like you needed your child needed protecting from all these people in the train, you sit next to your son. So if you decide that you're going to sit two rows down, and your son is sitting on there on his own, and you feel like because he's a minor, he needs your protection, so sit next to him. Don't make a whole big deal out of, at the end of the day, my ticket, it was my actual seat. So I had the right in the first place. So now he's got this guy, because it's a guy now. He's like, oh, I want to make a complaint against this lady because she spoke to my child. So, and then the guy said to me, so he went on and he started saying all sorts of things. And I'm like, because at this point I didn't want to get engaged. I didn't want to say a word, but he started saying, oh, she shouted at my son. She was shouting at my son. And I'm like, you didn't even know for 2 whole minutes that your son had moved. You didn't even know what happened. And all of a sudden, you are accusing me of shouting at your son. So I say to this man, I think this man, I didn't say it, but I just say to him, listen, I came in, I said to the young man, oh, I think this is my seat because that's what my ticket says. Do you mind just moving to the seat? There were 2 seats that were free. He could have just sat on the seat next, and I would have just sat on the seat on the window. But he decided to go to another seat, which was perfectly fine because it was free at that time. So technically he could have just took his feet off and I would have sat on the seat, but he just decided to move to another seat. So he says, oh, she was shouting at my son. She shouldn't have been speaking to my son without my permission. And the man is like asking me to say, so at this point, I'm like, I need to interject. I need to say my piece because there's nothing more annoying than a person who was trying to make a story where there was no story, number one. And number two, he did not even know what had happened until he looked up. I think he was on his phone at the time. I have no idea because I didn't know where this man came from. He just literally appeared and he was sitting. He still had his own seat. They still never sat together with his son, anyhow, the whole journey until they dropped off. So I said to him, I just came in and I told the son to say, and then the conductor said to the son, was she rude? Was she aggressive? And the guy said, no. But the father just would not let it go. And this is the funny thing. It wasn't a white person. It was a black man. It was a black man, which I'm not saying that a white person should have been rude to anybody, but the fact that it was a black man trying to accuse me of harassing his son that I spoke to for 1 second. And I'm like, literally, what the, it's and you would not let it go. And then once this conductor just asked the son to say, are you okay? Was there anything untoward that happened to you? And the son said, no, nothing happened to me. I just moved and came and sat down. And that was it. So the father really got annoyed because the son did not collaborate his story. So he then makes a phone call to someone, maybe his wife or whoever it was that he made a phone call to. And he started, he wanted me to hear this conversation, when a person's talking so loudly and wants me to hear the conversation. And he's like, oh my God, these rude people who just came without any manners. They come into the train and then they like, get people who are already sitting. So he just went on about how rude I am or how whatever I was. And I was like, oh my God. And I just left. I did not say a single word, but obviously this was a man who was trying so hard to get my attention or to get me annoyed. And then that finished. The conductor left and he went, and then another guy came along. Another guy works in the train again. So the lady who had the lady who sells the crisps, she works in the trains. She came back, and then this guy, because he wouldn't let it go, he says, well, just to let you know, just for future, when there is a child involved, it's not your place to interject. It's not your place to. So he's like, do you know, we were in that train maybe between where I got on the train until Peterborough, which was probably about 30-45 minutes. The man did not stop. he just, and I was like, maybe I should just get up and go and sit somewhere and just let it be, because he was so angry. And I've not seen a person be so angry. It's something he doesn't even know what happened. You know, he literally did not know what happened. And the child, who he was not a child, he was almost a grown up. He was, to tell you the truth, if he could be on that train on his own any day, because he was not a child. He clearly just said, no, nothing happened. She just asked me to move. And that was it. So for the father to just go on and on, it was, and he made like 6 phone calls in the duration of the 45 minutes to so many different people saying the exact, I don't know whether there were other people on the phone or he was just pretending. And these people who talk and cannot let something go. And I was thinking, if I was the child to that father, I would be so. The child was so embarrassed by it. I could tell, because I turned around and I was looking at this boy and I was thinking, I hope he's increased his volume on his headphones, because this man is not stopping. And he was literally disrupting, because there were other people. Obviously, you've got all the seats are filled up, and there were other people and people coming in from other stations who have no idea what's going on, and just hearing this man keeping on complaining and complaining, and nobody reacting to him. And then he said the same. So the lady came back and he said, oh, you shouldn't have done this. I'm going to make a complaint against the train line, because the staff did not protect my child, because your job was to protect my child from rude customers. And it was so bad. It was literally like, I am getting to a point where I just wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. Usually I fall asleep. I get in the train, when the train's moving, I just close my eyes and I just fall asleep. I couldn't fall asleep because I was scared. I was scared he's going to come behind me and stab me or something, because the man was just overly. I have no idea about the type of person who cannot let something go until he has the last word. That type of person. So because everybody was just like, well, there's no big deal. What is your big deal? The ticket, this lady's ticket said number 25A or 25B, whatever. I think it was 25A, if it was 25. And your son was sitting in 25A. Your ticket does not have a seat number. It doesn't have a designated seat number. So you just sit at any seat. That doesn't say, because at the top it tells you where you should watch out for the person who has who's got that seat number, because obviously the train goes from whatever, whether it's from Leeds or usually how trains all the way up to London. So it might say at Peterborough, the person who's got that seat will get up at Peterborough, or it will say at Redford, or it will say at Grantham, whatever it says, whoever owns the seat. So you can sit until such a point when the person who owns who's been designated the seat gets on the train. So I'm like, oh my God. So I got out, eventually all this finished, and I could not relax at all. It was just the most uncomfortable. He actually achieved exactly what he was trying to achieve. It was the most uncomfortable train ride ever, because I was scared. I mean, people have been stabbed for less. People have been killed for less. And I was checking my seats to make sure that it's got like one of the, whether the seat is all cloth or material or cloth, or it had like a plastic back, because I was so worried, because if it didn't have a plastic back, I would have been so scared. But I ended up sitting kind of like this so I could see what's going in and out. But I wasn't worried about the son who was sitting right behind me, because the son was sitting right behind me. I wasn't worried about him. He wasn't going to do anything because he never said a word. It's the father that I was so scared of. If that man, if we were in the United States, I would assume you would probably have been carrying a gun and you would have shot me, because that man was angry. And I can imagine his life, his family, his children. They can't even say a word, because a child will come and say, oh, something, and if he doesn't get you can't even justify yourself, because he's just set in his own brain. People were just set in their own brain. Feel sorry. Well, I don't know whether he is a wife or not a wife, or whoever the mother of the child. I just felt sorry for that person, because God, I have I just didn't understand it. I didn't get it. But it's an experience that I would probably, every time I go into a train and someone's sitting now, every time I go in, if somebody's sitting on my seat, I don't know, I probably won't ask them to move, because it is, I would rather just go and stand by the doors. I did that once. I think we went, and I was standing at the doors because my ticket didn't have a seat. So I just couldn't be bothered to sit down and then get somebody. You get relaxed, and then somebody comes and says, oh, this is my seat. So I just stood by the door the whole time and made my steps. Yeah, but so we ended up going to, so since we didn't go into the train, guess what? We ended up going to Meadow. So did a bit of people watching. You just sit there, you watch people, and you make up stories about what they're doing with the day or whatever. There's always something happening. If you're sitting in a big shopping center, a family will come by dragging the children, a child will be screaming, the parent will be, that sort of thing. So it's always quite nice to just sit there and watch. I mean, we obviously had something to eat and we went in a couple of shops, but otherwise the most fun was had while just sitting outside, not outside, but on one of the benches, and just having a lot of fun just watching people. But yeah, that was my Saturday. Happy Saturday. Bye.